Memories from my college years working at J.C. Penney's. Now, this was where things had gotten worse. And so I was going to college, raising my son, and working at the same time, working part time. So a lot of times I would get maybe 5 hours at night. So I was working, I was still part time, no benefits. And so I was in my late 30s working at J.C. Penney. And so the human resource woman, if you call her that, I just called her a supervisor. She was a lot younger, probably at least 10, 15 years younger than me. And so sometimes on the weekends we would work extended hours, but it was always under, if they scheduled us for 6 or 7 hours, that's what it was 6 or 7 hours. Usually it was 4 to 6 hours, the same as it was for Woolworths when I was working there as a kid. And so we didn't get lunch scheduled at all. And so what she did, there was one time I think they scheduled me for 7 hours, and I said, well, what about my break, or do I get lunch? And she says, well, can't you eat lunch on your 15-minute break? And so I would go to work on the weekend. We would open up early on the weekend, and then she would want to send me to lunch at 10 o'clock in the morning. So not long after. So she'd be like, okay, well, why don't you go to lunch now at this time? And I'm like, well, I kind of thought maybe I'd wait a little bit later, maybe towards 11 or 1 or something like that. And then I said, well, I said, if you're going to schedule us long hours, do we get lunch or check out? And she's like, well, can't you just eat lunch on your 15-minute break? She was a horse shit of a supervisor. And then she did something else too. One time I asked her if I could have the weekend off. And so she scheduled me for the Sunday at the beginning of the week off and Saturday of the end of the week off, and called that a weekend. And she's like, oh, well, if you need the whole weekend off, see if you can trade with someone else. She says, I just can't do it. This is how I have to schedule it. Then the next week she scheduled me with only 5 hours, and she's like, oh, I thought you wanted some time off. And so that's the kind of shitty ass supervisor that she was. But she had mostly teenagers who would call in sick on Friday nights and Saturday mornings and Saturdays because they didn't want to work. So she kept me and some of the older ladies who stuck around to work there, who needed to work. But she played horseshit games, though.